Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the sixth world, the world of Shadowrun? Today I'm going to be leading you to the North American continent again, and to the Pueblo Corporate Council, the PCC. If you're ready to join me, though, I am your host and guide here at Dracovin, and I will lead you through a gateway, through astral plane, through the various existences, time and space, to another dimension. Different history, similar to our own in so many ways, and so many differences. Please do remember to give a little bit of a tip here. Hey, we're over on the YouTube side of things. Like subscribing the bell and let me know in the comments below your encounters and experiences with Pueblo. And if you want to run it, the gate is open, my hand outstretched. Are you ready? The sixth world awaits us. Right. Alright. Now, if I wanted to learn about Pueblo Corporate Council in even more details and depths, with like maybe a little bit of spice and stuff here, what are some sources I can do? Well, my source in particular that I was the favorite of was the Sixth World Almanac and Shadows of North America. I did also use the ShadowrunFandom.com wiki site. That's usually a good one if you look it up. But there are a number of other books that do provide some information on it. Things like Target Smuggler's Haven and such. So there are other options out there that you can hit up on when it comes to Pueblo. But again, it also depends on what all the information you're looking for. Certain cities, certain places, all those different things. It's connections with places like Denver. Anyway, there's their flag. So the Pueblo Corporate Council is a corporate nation. They organize in a similar manner to a corporation, with the citizens being shareholders. They have a huge part of the American Southwest and Southern California, having expanded their borders in more recent years. And they are still actually one of the most technological advanced nations on the entire planet. Let me say that again. When it comes to technological advancements of every nation in the Shadowrun world, the Pueblo Corporate Council is in the top. At least top 10, if not top 5. They are near the top. They are some of the best. And that is the top, definitely, of all the Native American nations. Of all those nations, they're also the most friendly towards non-Native Americans, the Anglos. They have an alliance with the CAS. So, they are in an interesting position with a lot of wealth, a lot of power, and being actually friendly with some of the people that, there would be reasons to dislike them. Not going to lie, there are good reasons to dislike them. They're a little bit like living like news. The capital is Santa Fe. The current president is Emilio Cajime, and chairman of the board is Miguel Luis Dizil. I'm probably butchering that a little bit. They only have approximately a little more than 12 million people in the entire country. But again, in the American Southwest, there's a lot of desert in the region. So, you're not going to get beyond that. But that is also as of 3rd edition, the 12 million. Because time goes by, there's probably a little bit more numbers. Okay, 4th edition does have about 38 million. When we get to 3rd edition. 4th edition. So 5th and 6th edition might add a little bit more population, even on top of that. The primary languages are English, Spanish, Zuni, and Hopi. They don't really have geographical states in their region. It's profit centers and responsibility. So keep that in mind, too. A lot of deserts, a lot of mountains. That is Pueblo, in a nutshell, in a lot of ways. But we can talk about the history of Pueblo. That's a very important thing to discuss, because, certainly speaking, we have to kind of consider this. It is a newer nation. It's not one that exists in our world. And when we're looking at it, we start by the end of the last century. We're still in the United States. It's the economic boom that's leading up to the resource rush. Albuquerque and Phoenix are becoming technological oases. Tribal members in those regions are learning to become the technical and professional skills in these businesses of demand. They are adapting to the situation. And these skills actually would serve them well. Then we get President Garrity condemning the Native Americans to re-education camps, everything that led up to the Great Ghost Dance, everything that led up to the everything that happened that caused the creation of the Native American nations. Even these skilled and professional members of the tribes in the Southwest were not immune to this. Still, a lot of local businesses actually helped protect them. They resisted it or forgot they heard the orders, forgot they were even there. Nonetheless, when Daniel Coleman overthrew the re-education camp system, Pueblo joined with him in the rebellion against the United States. Leading them was a group called the Kachina Society. They were originally a heritage foundation to preserve culture and traditions of the Hopi tribe. If I butcher any names, I apologize. So they kept alive some of those more mystical secrets, and when magic returned to the shamans, they were there. These were the people that were keeping alive the things that were what had created magic in ancient days, in the previous worlds. So they aided Coleman and the Great Ghost Dance, and the great rituals in the Southwest. They were basically instrumental in assisting Daniel Coleman in the rebellion. Many of them sacrificed their lives during the Great Ghost Dance. It's one of the reasons that they became one of the nations of the Nan and in the Treaty of Denver. The Kachina Society's assistance here basically secured this. Now, Pueblo, this new nation, while many of the Native American nations decided to return to old tribal government methods, they didn't. They chose a progressive form. They wanted to imitate the new extraterritorial megacorps. The Kachina Society then basically retired from the forefront, returned to its national home in the Chiabola forest, and basically became the morale leadership's spiritual counselors of the Hopi and Zuni tribes. On the surface, we'll get into all this. It's a thing. So the Kachina Society basically pretended to be not interested in council's affairs, but really, the board kept making decisions that agreed with the society. Some minority tribes in the lands accused the board of basically keeping in favor in the Hopi and Zuni. In 2053, an expose in the Albuquerque Press basically claimed that the inner circle of the Kachina Society, called the Soyoko, was basically pulling the board strings, the people in charge of the Pueblo Corporate Council. And, yeah, they basically had all the influence over it, and they benefited the Hopi and Zuni more than anything. And the mastermind behind all this, Carlo Estefan, the chairman of the board at the time. Okay, so Carlo, sorry. No, yeah, I got the right names for that. This group would come to an end, though. In 2057, President Maria Anzalo retired, citing health. Everybody expected Antonio Pope, the protege of Estefan, the chairman of the board, to succeed, but, surprising everybody, Emilio Kajeme, a minor executive of the Acoma tribe, was voted in president. So we have a regime change that's going up now. So, relations between the board of directors and Kachina Society worsened during this time period. Basically, they were criticizing and denouncing President Kajeme's decisions, and that came to a crisis in 2061. Ritual was going around being held by the Kachina Society and doing dances. 4 masked dancers threw off their robes, drew weapons, gunned down the lead dancers. And one of them included Chairman Estefan. This became forgotten, though, the murder of Estefan, because just 2 weeks later was when Pueblo forces rolled into Los Angeles when they called for assistance. And under the pretense of restoring order and protecting Southern California from invaders, they basically took it over. So, quietly in the background, a new chairman of the board was basically appointed. Carlos Promode was also elected to fill the vacant directorship left by Estefan. So, yeah. Now we get to the time leading up to 5th and 6th edition, time between 2065 and 2070. The Ute Nation. We don't know a lot of details about the absorption of the Ute Nation into Pueblo Corporate Council. We know that Ute were suffering. They were the Native American nations that were not being successful as a nation. Of all the nations, they were the one that was basically falling apart, had a lot of problems. Pueblo and Ute had already had cordial relations. They deteriorated, had territorial disputes, different opinions towards the Anglos, where Pueblo was basically like, hey, they're fine. And Ute was like, no, hate them with a passion. Anyway, basically at some point in time, we don't know what happens, but the result afterwards, again, there's some details, not a whole lot, but Pueblo absorbs Ute, becomes one big nation. So, yeah. And that was about in 2067. So now we have, of course, President Maria Anzalo, Emilio Kajime, and Miguel Luis Dizel, the new chairman of the board from 2062. And we have just basically a new government in a little bit of this. And we'll talk about how the government works in here, but yeah. So here it is. Now this is Pueblo Corporate Council post the Ute absorption and post the Los Angeles absorption. So keep that in mind. Both those things have occurred as of this picture. And this, of course, is the one in the Six World Almanac. So you can see that it was between 3rd edition and 4th edition this occurred. Because if you look at the map in 3rd edition, it's post Los Angeles, but pre-Ute. So by the time of 3rd edition, Los Angeles has been absorbed, but Ute hasn't. By the time of 4th edition, Ute has been absorbed. To give you an idea of timelines. So, alright now, what's in this land? Well, if we look at traditional territories by our U.S. standards, a lot of southern Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, parts of southern California. It has the Arkansas and Rio Grande rivers. It's also desert. It's also a lot of desert. The Mojave Desert is a broad expanse here. It is 57,000 square kilometers of desert that now has numerous poison animals, mundane and paranormal creatures, very deadly. It is a magical hotspot now. And a lot of the awakened creatures there are either indifferent or dangerous to those that travel there. So if you're not on the main roads, the few that cross there, it's kind of dangerous. Chaco Canyon is also a major place in here. North of the city of Gallup, and the ancient ruins of an Anasazi city. It's basically a national monument for the country. For some interesting places that are. For cities, well, we can talk about a few of them. Of course, we know Santa Fe is the capital. It's the Wall Street of the West. It's kind of a small town with only about 500,000 people as of 4th edition. But it has all the big places for Pueblo. Its Department of Financing, Department of Assurance, Small Business Administration. This is where all the funds are granted out to the various things of the nation. It has its own stock exchange. It's also very high elevation. The highest elevation capital. Higher than Denver by over 500 meters. It's got a central plaza and a lot of buildings around it. And it has kind of a Spanish Pueblo architecture, which it ties to. So there's no big skyscrapers in the city. It's also got a big art market. And second only art market to Manhattan, and a high number of resident artists. So, Santa Fe, heart of the government. Albuquerque, it's the innovative heart. That's where Nature's technology, computer engineering, and a lot of all the AR systems are being developed. It is the bleeding heart of technology in the nation. Albuquerque. Engineering firms, scientists that are the leaders behind the big Nature's developments and all the tech that's being developed are based out of there. Research and development firms focus on aeronautics, alternative energy, lasers. Government-owned Sandia Laboratories is where most of the cutting-edge Matrix technology and experiments take place. Kirtland Aeronautical Laboratories, besides the International Airport in Albuquerque, basically build the high-tech aeronautical electronics, warfare developments, crafting, maintaining the Air Force, and patrolling drones. Of course, now, we can't forget the big city that's been absorbed into here, Los Angeles, because it is part of Pueblo. Now, but it's had its share of disasters. By the time around 4th edition, there was a number of big earthquakes that had hit it, creating a deep astral structure known as the Deep Lacuna. And it's also still the media capital of maybe even the world, if not just the Pueblo Corporate Council. Hollywood is still there. The disasters have left it mostly unscathed, and it still presents massive SimSense and TRIDs for global distribution. So Hollywood is still big, and it's in Pueblo now. Horizon has its corporate headquarters in Los Angeles, and actually employs more than 10% of the population. 20 basically in side industries related to the corporation. Media's big. It's also a gigantic port, the largest on the west coast of North America, with massive amounts of traffic and size. So again, big educational facilities, lots of trade, huge media. That's Pueblo in a nutshell, in a lot of ways. Let's talk about who's in charge of Pueblo and the people of Pueblo. So, when we talk about Pueblo, there are citizenships in a way. See, Pueblo Corporate Council is a for-profit corporation with publicly traded stock. Basically, the shareholders elect a board of directors, and the shareholders elect chairman of the board. Shares come in 3 basic varieties. Preferred shares hold no voting rights, but are publicly traded. Residential shares hold voting rights, along with any of the rights associated with basically citizenship, and return a dividend. And conditional shares are basically the limited ones that have been given out for the new integrated areas, UT, and Los Angeles and stuff like that, the annexed territories. So, yeah, that's kind of an idea of how you get into these here. UT, of course, being eventually absorbed after the crash of 2.0 led them so screwed over. So very much. We kind of have to explain at least 2 of these stocks a little bit more. Because again, the conditional ones are kind of like the residential, except for new people in there. So preferred stock basically can be purchased or claimed by anyone. You have voting rights, but you do have the ability to enter and live in the PCC. It's an entry visa if you have preferred stock. Residential stock is for Pueblo citizens, full voting rights. Pueblo doesn't allow for dual citizenship. So you must have Pueblo exclusively in order to possess residential stock shares. Now, as a citizen, you can buy and sell more residential shares, but you may not sell your original citizenship shares without becoming a non-resident alien. The board of directors is, of course, 12 people, and the 2 major tribes are the Zuni and Hopi, and minor tribes are the Coma, Laguna, Lakoi, and Zia. And they do control the sector of Denver. Alright, now we have an idea of the government, some of the politics, some of the people here. Just to give you a base idea of how things work. Okay, now, we can talk a little bit more about the people in the economic side of things. So, they function as one large extraterritorial corporation. Annual return of their stocks has constantly exceeded 16% for the past 8 years, since 2063. Their stock funds have outperformed the Standard & Poor Index 500 index since 2031. They basically act as a large company specializing in venture capitals and banking and insurance. This in turn supports and finances a lot of startup and e-business and information technology, strengthening their presence on the matrix, offering state-subsidized insurance policies and business loans to the industries at a reduced rate, and basically to increase the industrial base and sustain the economy. If you're another corporation, well, there's restrictions preventing major mega corporations from running amok. First of all residents and employees must have at least one preferred share to do business in Pueblo property. All corporations need an operating license to function on Pueblo land, and submit themselves to 2-year audits, to 2 audits a year by fair trade auditors. If you fail to meet this, you're licensed to vote. A good example of this is in 2062, as Technology had its operating license revoked, and they were told to vacate all their facilities and pack up operations. They slowly worked on that. Again, by the 2070s, I can't say whether or not they finished that, but they were working on it. Slow but steady. Gets them out of the nation. So, yes, we have an idea of the nation now. Now, there's crime. Like many great places, there's crime. Smuggling, the end run, the big dance, the underworld, maybe a little not mafia. But the big crime group here are the Koshari, shown here. They are an American Indian crime syndicate. They were Native Amerindian? That's a weird word. They were Native American crime syndicate. This is probably something left over from old days in Shadowrun. The wording of it. Anyway, they are a Native American crime syndicate based out of the Pueblo Corporate Council. So, like, the Mafia tends to originally be Italian. You have the Triads based out of Chinese. The Yakuza, Japanese descent. That's basically what the Koshari are. Anyway, the last 2 decades have been expanding, base of operations, a lot of other syndicates to a lesser degree, kind of connections with the Mafia. So, they're probably the big organized crime group within Pueblo. Because again, being outside of that is kind of hard. And they had big connections into Oot and stuff too. They've been in Las Vegas and a lot of other places. They've expanded their influence beyond just those borders there into a lot of area. CAS, Miami, working with some of the, working as the foot soldiers for ghost cartels in some of the regions here. Salish City Council, Denver, the Sioux Nation. They are in a lot of places now. They've been expanding their organization. They're the big crime group here. So, I can talk about a lot of different crime syndicates. I'm not going to go depth about them. But yes, they have their origins within this area here. They've had some peaceful connections with other major crime syndicates too. But they are the kind of main organized crime. Organized part. And that's not to say there couldn't be possibly gangs. Again, we already have smuggling routes going through their nation here too. And a lot of other things going on. But there you go. There's the PCC, the Pueblo Corporate Council. It's very interesting because the direction they took is very different from any of the other Native American nations. They have become this interesting, corporate democracy. Because in a way, they're still a democracy, but it's odd. Every citizen is a shareholder. Every shareholder votes on a board of directors. The board of directors and the head of the board then choose a president. It's an interesting kind of connection of things. Yeah. And this means, certainly speaking, there could be elections that change the people in the council very easily. The people can just vote. Any citizens who has a share in the corporation can. It's wild in a lot of ways. It's a fascinating government type, and something that has actually been relatively successful in the world of Shadowrun. Shadowrun is a world filled with magic, a lot of terrible things happening, and megacorps. So a better way to fight megacorps is to be a corp themselves. That way they can keep a good leash on fellow corporates that are trying to get into their land. It's fascinating. It really is. Not that I can't say some of the other Native American nations are very fascinating. I might do a video on Oot at one point in time. But they're gone, had a rich history for a while, and they are now part of Pueblo. So it's kind of one of those things is, I'm talking about Pueblo as a whole. I'm not really diving into this individual territory as it once was within their nation. Because again, they're getting that kind of new type of citizenship to add themselves in the conditional shares. But yeah, they're very fascinating. I hope you enjoyed learning about them. And yeah, It just is not that all the Native American nations aren't interesting of themselves, but I feel like Pueblo and its direction stand out more than any. I hope you enjoyed. We'll have to see about talking about more Native American nations and other places in Shadowrun in the future. But that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, check out all my stuff, whether it's over on Twitch or YouTube. Twitch is all my stuff live, whether it's tabletop stuff, video games, otherwise. All the tabletop stuff does end up on the YouTube side of things, so if you miss it live, you can always join me later on there. Remember to check out, whether live or there, my live plays. I'm doing some Pathfinder 2nd Edition with friends right now, Fall of Avonswell, Wednesdays at 8, and discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6, which is my kind of talk show / podcast where we talk about news of the week and deeper discussion topics and tabletop. I've included some Shadowrun in recent weeks. We've had some news on them. Anyway, if you're over on the YouTube side, do some important things. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, help with the algorithm. Let me know in the comments what you think of all this, and always check out my social media, like Discord, Blue Sky, / Twitter. And I think that's all for today, so I'm going to say thank you. Hope you enjoyed, and the next time we head to the Sixth World, or anywhere else, until then, I bid you all a deep and wonderful farewell.